Welcome into the Important Nonsense YouTube Waiver Show. It's Jason Draven. We're going to get you guys started off this week for who you need to pick up, what's available on the waiver wire, because don't know if you know this, but the Bills, Cowboys, Vikings, Steelers, Chargers, and Jaguars are all on bye, which means you are losing a lot of players this week. So with that in mind, we'll start off 4 streaming quarterback options, and I'm starting with a guy that really showed out this past week after coming off of IR, and it's Tua Tagovailoa. He's 25.3% roster currently. He has the Falcons and Bills upcoming, and like I said, he came off of IR against the Jaguars in London and had a great day. He went for 33 of 47 passes, so he completed 33 of them, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He also had 3 rushes for 22 yards. Pretty awesome, and the offense is looking really solid. With Davian Howard dealing with some injury, it's something that you really need to watch because he's going to have to keep up with any team that they play. We'll move to the next guy on the other side of the field, and it's Matt Ryan, 29.1% rostered. He has the Dolphins and Panthers upcoming. Great matchups for him. He's started to put up numbers. The new OC seems to be dealing with it, and they're coming off a bye, which is usually a good thing for any quarterback. So in week 3, 27 for 36, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 15.62 fantasy points. Week 4, 25 for 42, 283 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 29.02 fantasy points. Before the bye, week 5, 33 of 45 for 342 yards and 2 touchdowns, or 21.58 fantasy points. He's going to be solid this week, and I think that coming off the bye is really going to help. So moving to running back, and it's J.D. McKissic. I know I'm super frustrated that he's still available, but then with Gibson continue to deal with these shin splint issues and everything else going on with him, he's somebody that you have to look at. He has the Packers and Broncos upcoming. I know. Week 4, 7 carries, 15 yards, not great. 5 receptions, 44 yards and touchdowns, 16.9 fantasy points. Him getting used in the passing game is a huge part of his game, as you'll see. Week 5, 2 carries, -1 yard, 1 reception for 8 yards, 1.7 fantasy points. It really seems that Gibson came on that week, so that kind of offset it. This past week, 8 carries for 45 yards, 8 receptions for 65 yards, or 19 fantasy. And as I said, Gibson is dealing with an injury, so this is a player that you're going to want because you don't know when Gibson's going to be out, and you see how effective he is when Gibson's off the field and McKissic is in. Okay, the next player kind of has a stipulation because Kareem Hunt has an injury. At the same point, he is actually a wide receiver, so his upcoming matchups, it's Demetric Felton, 2.9% rostered. Upcoming matchups are Broncos and Steelers, and like I said, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb both dealing with injuries. Hunt, they said, is going to be out for a while with this calf issue, and Chubb is probably going to be limited. With a quick turnaround on Thursday, I think Demetric Felton is really the target monster. Ernest Johnson is the guy who is the one who really replaces Nick Chubb and can do both parts of that job, while Felton is the gadget player. He has success. This past week, he had 2 receptions for 14 yards, and when Landry's out, he really does have a lot of success. Another player, if he's available and if you're looking for a quick fill-on, is actually DJ Dallas. He's put up some decent numbers with Collins there. Moving to wide receivers, and you should have known about him last week or in the offseason when we talked about him, but he was on IR, and it's Rashod Bateman, 14.6% rostered, has the Bengals and then a bye. Granted, it's really quick. So his first week back and tied for the most target on the team this week. 4 for 6, 29 yards. Not great, but 6.9 fantasy points in a game that they dominated. So if he really asserts himself and is a guy, really going to be somebody that you want on your team moving forward. The other guy is somebody else who's just seeing a lot of targets, and it's Monroe Brown. Okay, 12.1% rostered. Upcoming matchups are the Rams and the Eagles. Not great for him. However, week 4, 6 for 8 for 70 yards, 13 fantasy points. Week 5, 7 for 8, 65 yards, 13.5 fantasy points. Week 6, 5 for 7, 26 yards, 9.6 fantasy points. So he's been really solid and is a wide receiver that's really coming on to help out, take some coverage away from TJ Hawkinson, and allow him to have some success. We'll move into tight end, and the first guy is Zach Ertz. He was just traded to the Cardinals. He's currently 48.3% rostered, and he has the Raiders and Lions upcoming. So far this season, while he was splitting with Dallas Goedert, he's tight end 20. Not great. However, week 3, 5 for 6 for 36 yards, 8.6 fantasy points. Well, week 4, 4 for 5, 32 yards, and a touchdown, 13.2 fantasy points. Week 5, 6 for 8, 75 yards, and a touchdown, 19.5 fantasy points. With that in mind, he's doing excellent, and the fact that he's on the Cardinals, it's going to take him a little bit to transition, but he's going to be a player that I really think will end the year as a top 12 tight end. The next player we also saw this past week, and I was telling everybody to use him because he had such a great matchup. It's Ricky Seals-Jones. He's 20% roster currently. His upcoming matchups are the Packers and the Broncos, and with Logan Thomas on IR, he has really stepped up. So week 4, 2 for 4, 19 yards, 3.9 fantasy points. It's not great. However, Thomas goes to IR week 5, 5 for 9, 41 yards, 9.1 fantasy points. This past week against the Chiefs, he went 4 for 6, 58 yards, and a touchdown, 15.8 fantasy points. He's one of those players that you really have a lot of potential with, and the fact that this team is going to have to throw a lot because they can't seem to really find any way to stop offenses, this guy is a huge option for you. Speaking of being able to stop teams, we're going to go into defenses, and we're starting off with the Saints. Currently 49.8% rostered. I know, you're barely under it, but I had to put them up because they're coming off of a bye, and there's that chance. They have the Seahawks and the Buccaneers, so they get to go against Geno Smith this week, and their worst game is a complete anomaly against the Giants where they put up -3 fantasy points. It's super frustrating. However, the week before that, they put up 19 fantasy points versus the Patriots, and just a week before the bye, they put up 5 fantasy points against the football team. So they're pretty solid defense, and I really think that this week they are just able to explode and really help your team out. The other one is another one that I probably shouldn't even deal with, but I continue to put him on here, and it's a Jet. I have a lot of hope for Salah here, and I think that he's going to get this team really notched up. Coming off a bye as well, they have the Patriots and the Bengals. Had their worst game overseas and put up -1 fantasy points. It was really frustrating, but they do come off the bye and have the Patriots who they've already played and put up 5 fantasy points against in week 2. In week 3, they had 4 fantasy points versus the Broncos and 4 fantasy points versus the Titans. So with all of this in mind, you guys really need to check out these teams. If you need any other questions, you can hop on the Discord. It's only $1 a month, or you can find me as a Fantasy Life app, that FF Nerd in the Start Sit community. And as always, remember, until next time, to keep up the nonsense.